Hello, Vanessa.
Hi.
Once again, welcome to Data 2020 Summit. We're very glad to have you here today. Before we dive into the questions, so can you tell us more about yourself and the organization that you're representing today?
Yes. So I'm Vanessa Eriksson, and I'm from PWC in Sweden. PWC, I think, needs no introduction really. It's a worldwide brand really, and they're mainly well known for auditing and accounting, tax regulations, and business consulting. I belong to the data and analytics part of PWC, and I'm leading the Chief Data Officer advisory section for them. I come from Telia. I've just recently joined PwC. I've just joined them from Telia, where I've been for the past 8 years. Most recently as Chief Data Officer at Eurasia, which is 7 countries that we were running, as well as Division X, which is the innovation hub for Telia.
What are some of the common challenges that organizations might face when it comes to this area?
Today, data governance has been around for a while now, and you've got models, you've got frameworks, you have best practice that companies can implement. However, today, when you're looking at the innovation, companies are partnering up with other companies. You've got startups, you've got third parties. You have so many different groups, different parties that are working together on the innovation with you. And imagine what that data governance model looks like, because you've got vendors giving you their sensors, and then you're thinking, okay, so who actually owns the data? And that model is very different from the enterprise model that companies are implementing. So I think that is the biggest challenge today. It will require a lot of thinking. It'll be agile, because every innovation that you do, you will not have the same parties all the time. Depending on what you're doing, you will have different parties that are working together with you, different companies that are working with you in your innovation. So the model, your owners of data will differ with every model. So you have to be really agile in your thinking.
Vanessa, as you know, we are all here today to discuss about the ways how organizations can actually prepare for this famous data-driven future. So from your perspective, how can these organizations actually speed up this process?
From talking to a lot of companies and from my own experience, I know that there's a lot of companies that are actually, playing around with innovation, because you have, dwindling revenues, and companies are trying to find new ways of generating new business revenues, new models. And I think one way of trying to accomplish this, is by creating, a smaller startup kind of agile groups or companies within the company. If you look at Gartner's bimodal way of working, where you create a company within a company to just spearhead the innovation, to do the fail fast approach, because you want to try out different kinds of IoT or innovation, POCs, POVs, try and see if it's working. And I think that's one of the ways that companies can actually take on this challenge, because if you're looking at big enterprises where you've got 2,000 people, trying to get anything up and running takes time. Yes. So I think this is one way where I absolutely think, yes, it's possible. It's possible to do this, because you take a small group, agile way of working, try a POC, try a POV, do the innovation. If it doesn't work, scrap it. So it doesn't take 2 years to do an implementation or
more like
a larger scale.
We have the technology which is developing super fast, right? And along with it, so do the buzzwords and hypes such as IoT, data science. You have augmented reality, big data, clouds, and similar. And all of this actually have taken the IM discussion by storm. And sometimes when you look at it, it might sound really confusing, right? So the question is, how can organizations actually organize the data management in such a way that it actually meets all of these trends?
Yeah. And I'd like to say that appoint a chief data officer. because yes, because you, like you said, you've got so many things happening. You've got somebody trying out innovation. You got the enterprise. You got the GDPR, so the compliance bit, and I mean all these pieces need to work together. And yes, you have, like for privacy or security, you have chief security officers, chief privacy officers, but I think that you need somebody to actually be the center and keep this all together, to actually show value, because when you join all these things together, all these functions together, you actually create value for the company. So in my personal experience, I would think, appoint the chief data officer, because then you will actually have somebody who is accountable and for driving all these functions, getting the results back, and actually, creating value for the company.
Great. This is really nice to hear. Okay, so one final question. Looking at data management technology in practice, and again, from your area of expertise, what can we expect, let's say, in the next 12 months?
Gartner predicts that by 2020, the number of chief data officers appointed is going to, triple and double and triple. And I think if you're looking at the Nordics, that is not really, the figures don't match. And I'm thinking, why? Is it that we don't understand the role here in the Nordics, or because you have people doing the work today? But I think that is going to change, because I think you will see more chief data officers being appointed, and maybe they won't have the role, but I think the function is really important. The function is needed. Maybe it won't report directly to the board or to the CEO, but I think that we will see an increase of chief data officers being appointed. That is a trend that I definitely see picking up here on a slower pace, but nevertheless picking up here in the Nordics.
Well, thank you. That's really nice to hear. We have more Vanessas.
Yes.
Thank you. Again, thank you.
You.
It was really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for the input to the Data 2020 Summit.
Thank you.